For 37 days, the alien crew drifted between dead stars. The space around them was endless and cold, like an ocean with no shore. Their ship, the Veyrath, once a shining jewel of exploration, now floated powerless, its great silver hull. Scarred and blackened from the failure that had crippled it, the proud Zaylorians moved through the dim corridors with heavy steps. Their once bright uniforms were worn and stained. Food was running low, water was carefully rationed. The air recyclers worked only half the time, filling the ship with a faint metallic taste. Outside there was nothing, no planets, no stations, no nearby ships. Only the glow of faraway stars, too distant to help. On the bridge, Captain Jarrell stood silently before the main viewport. His tall frame seemed smaller now, shoulders bent beneath the weight of failure. The Zaylorians were explorers, navigators of the unknown, and the Veyrath was their pride. But now, the great ship was just another piece of drifting wreckage in the void. The drive core heart of the vessel was dead, not damaged, not malfunctioning. Dead. Their engineers had tried for weeks to revive it, pulling apart every component, rerouting every circuit, even attempting dangerous manual restarts. Nothing worked. The design was advanced, delicate technology meant to function perfectly, till it didn't. And once it failed, there was no known way to restart it. Jarrell had stopped making repair orders days ago. Now the only thing they could do was send out their distress signal. Wait, the distress beacon was barely working. Its transmission range was pitiful, like whispering into a hurricane. Every few hours, Jarrell ordered the engineers to send another pulse, knowing that the odds of anyone hearing it were almost zero. The Zaylorians knew this region of space. It was empty. No trade routes, no colonies, no reason for anyone to be nearby, and yet they kept sending the signal, because even a whisper was better than silence. Then, on the 37th day, something happened. The beacon's fading signal reached a place it should never have reached. It traveled farther than the Zaylorians could have imagined, bending through the emptiness until it brushed against the edge of human space. Transition to human. POV: the intercepted, a small human salvage vessel called Iron Hope, to engineers. Sat in the cluttered cockpit, scanning the darkness for something worth pulling in. Captain Mara Holt was not the kind of woman who believed in luck. In her experience, luck didn't save you when a plasma conduit exploded or when pirates cut your cums. Luck was for gamblers. Out here, survival came from skill, grit, and being willing to pick through the garbage of dead ships until you found something worth selling. Her co-pilot, Jox Rowan, was the opposite: young, easygoing, and convinced that the universe sometimes dropped treasure in your lap if you were patient enough that morning. Their long-range sensors picked up nothing, just the usual static and background radiation. Then Jox's console beeped. "What's that?" Holt asked, without looking up from her diagnostic readouts. "Don't know yet," Jox said, leaning closer to his screen. "Could be debris, could be." "Huh, this is weird. I'm getting a signal." Holt raised an eyebrow. "Out here? No one flies this far off the trade lanes." Jox tapped his console. "It's faint. Real faint. Looks like an automated distress call. From where?" "What? Deep void," Jox replied. "Act. Way past any mapped routes." Holt frowned. "Play it." X. Hit a key, and the cockpit filled with a broken metallic voice. It wasn't English or any human language. The words were jagged, strange, almost melodic in a way. "What language is that?" Holt muttered. "Not one I've heard before," Jox said. "And I've got the translation AI running. It's struggling to parse it." The AI's voice crackled to life. "This is the vessel Veyrath. It's catastrophic drive failure. Requesting aid. Life support failing. Coordinates attached." Holt sat back. Alien Jox nodded. "Yeah, and they're in trouble." The cockpit was silent for a long moment. The unspoken truth hung between them. Answering this call could be dangerous. Very dangerous. Suspense, the debate. Holt knew the stories. Some distress calls were traps. Pirates used them to lure and rescue ships, then strip them for parts or worse. And an alien distress call? That was a complete unknown. "We're not a rescue team," Holt said finally. "We've got enough Fuel for one job and this isn't it. But they're out there dying, Jox argued. Can't just ignore it. You're assuming it's real, Holt shot back. Could be a setup. Could be something that eats people for fuel. You want to go knocking on that door? Jox hesitated. I'm saying, what if it's not? What if it's real? Holt didn't answer right away. She stared out the viewport at the endless black, the specks of light so far away they might as well be painted on glass. Finally, she said, plot the coordinates. Let's see how bad it looks. Cut back to alien POV desperation on the Veyrath. Captain Jarrell leaned over the cum station as Engineer Thallon reported the status. No response. Thallon said quietly. Jarrell closed his eyes. He had expected that. Still, each silence hurt more than the last. Then suddenly the beacon monitor flashed. An incoming ping. Weak, but there. Thallon's hands trembled as he adjusted the signal filters. Someone's listening, he whispered. The bridge crew stared at him. Could it be real? After so long in silence, Jarrell forced himself to speak calmly. Open the channel. They sent another pulse, this time stronger, even though it drained precious energy from their reserves. Minutes passed. Then came the reply faint, distorted, but there it was a voice. Harsh guttural compared to the Zaylorian tongue, but unmistakably intelligent, and it was speaking to them. Return to human POV decision made, then the Iron Hope. The AI translated the alien reply in real time, patchy but understandable there. Alive, Jox said, grinning, and they're desperate. Holt exhaled slowly. Every instinct told her to turn away. But another voice, quieter, harder to ignore, said this might be the kind of thing you didn't walk away from. All right, Holt said at last. We'll go, but we keep our guard up. No heroics. Jox grinned. Got it, Captain. The Iron Hope adjusted course, engines burning brighter as it headed into the deep void. Far ahead, the Veyrath floated in darkness. Its hull was scarred. Its systems failing, its crew waiting for death. They didn't know what humans were capable of. They didn't know if help was truly coming. But in that moment, for the first time in 37 days, they had hope. And hope in the void was dangerous, because sometimes it came with a price. When Captain Mara Holt saw the alien schematics, she laughed. Not because it was funny, but because no one had ever fixed something like this and lived to tell the tale. On the display in Iron Hope's cramped engineering bay, the wireframe of the alien ship's drive core rotated slowly. It was unlike anything Holt had seen in 20 years of patching together broken spacecraft. Smooth, elegant, but so over-engineered that one flaw in the system meant complete shutdown. It's beautiful, Jox said, leaning over her shoulder. It's a death trap, Holt replied. One wrong move and the whole core fractures. They didn't design this thing to be repaired. They designed it to work until it doesn't, then you throw it away. They can't throw it away, Jox pointed. Out. It's their ship, and they're stuck. Holt crossed her arms, studying the alien symbols blinking across the schematics. The translation AI was struggling. Whole sections of the display were still unreadable. She shook her head. If this is real, we're going to need every tool, every spare part, and a miracle. Cut to alien POV, doubt in the dark, under Veyrath. Captain Jarrell stood in the observation deck, staring at the distant shape on their scanners. The human vessel was small. Too small for a proper repair crew. They don't look like military, First Officer Lorene said cautiously. Or traitors. They look like scavengers, Engineer Thallon muttered. Jirel turned sharply. They answered our call. We'll treat them with respect. Thallon didn't argue, but his eyes were filled with doubt. The Zaylorians were masters of precision engineering. Our ships were works of art. Human ships, from the few they had seen, were crude and boxy, more like floating tool sheds than the sleek forms of Zayloria. In Zaylorian culture, there was no greater shame than letting an unskilled hand tamper with your vessel. But now, they had no choice. Human arrival, tension builds. The Iron Hope dropped out of FTL with a flicker of blue light, emerging into the cold shadow of the Veyrath. Even Holt was impressed. The alien vessel was massive, its hull shaped like a silver, crescent, elegant fins stretching from the central spine. But up close, the damage was obvious: blackened, scorch marks, shattered panels, deep fractures in the plating. "Wow," Jox whispered. "That's something. It's dying," Holt said flatly. "Let's see if we can keep it alive." As the human ship approached, a low pulse of light ran along the Veyrath's hull docking beacon. Holt lined up the maneuver, matching rotation, then eased the Iron Hope into position. The magnetic clamps engaged with a dull clunk. First meeting mutual suspicion, the airlock hissed open, revealing 3 Zaylorians waiting inside their docking corridor. They were tall, almost 2 meters, with slender builds and pale, luminous skin. Their large, dark eyes watched the humans carefully. Captain Jarrell stepped forward. "I am Jarrell, commander of this vessel. You are human." Holt nodded. "Captain Mara Holt, Iron Hope. We heard your distress call." Jarrell's gaze flicked over Holt's patched, grease-stained uniform, then 2 Jox's mismatched tools hanging from his belt. The alien captain's expression was unreadable, but the silence that followed spoke volumes. "You claim you can repair our core?" Jarrell finally asked. "We can try," Holt said. "But your tech is very different from ours." "Different," Valen said, stepping forward. "Or primitive." Holt met his stare without flinching. "Different. The impossible problem." They led the humans to the core chamber. Even Holt, who had seen 1,000 ship engines in every state of ruin, stopped short. The drive core floated in a containment field, suspended by streams of pale blue energy. Fractures ran along its surface like cracks in glass, glowing faintly. Alien symbols danced across nearby consoles. Jox whistled. "That's not something you fix with duct tape." "It's worse than I thought," Holt murmured. Valen crossed his arms. "We told you. The core is beyond repair. The only reason you are here is because our captain insisted." Holt ignored him. She walked slowly around the containment field, taking in every detail. Her eyes traced the stabilizer mounts, the coolant channels, the pattern of stress fractures. Finally, she turned to Jarrell. "I'll need access to your schematics, all of them. I'll need your engineers to follow my lead." Valen's voice rose sharply. "You expect us to follow you?" Holt said simply. "Unless you'd rather drift out here until your air runs out." The room was silent for several long seconds. Then Jarrell nodded. "Give them what they need." Cultural clash, first sparks of respect. The next hours were tense. Human and Zaylorian engineers worked side by side, each frustrated by the others. Methods. Zaylorians used delicate, precise tools, some so small they looked like surgical instruments. Humans used heavier, multi-purpose gear. Zaylorians preferred methodical, step-by-step diagnostics. Humans tried 3 different things at once, often improvising on the fly. At first, the Zaylorians saw this as chaos. But as Holt and Jox began to produce results, small improvements in power distribution, stabilization of 2 failing systems, they started to reconsider. Holt, for her part, noticed how the aliens' precision complemented human adaptability. They filled in each other's gaps without meaning to. By the end of the shift, Holt had something like a plan. It was dangerous, it was untested, and it would require building replacement parts from whatever scrap they could find on board. She was explaining the first steps to Jarrell when the lights flickered and dimmed. Valen cursed in his language. "Power," Draenone explained. Jox checked his scanner. "This isn't a normal system failure. Something's feeding on your power." Lines. Holt looked at Jarrell. "Tell me you don't have pests on board." Jarrell's jaw tightened. "Not exactly." The lights flickered again. Shadows crawling across the core chamber walls. Whatever was out there in the dark parts of the ship, it had just woken up. The lights on the Veyrath didn't just flicker. They pulsed like something was breathing. Inside the walls, Captain Mara Holt had seen plenty of failing ships. Circuits overloaded, power grids collapsed. But she had never seen a vessel react like it was alive. Beside her, Jox Rowan swept his scanner toward the corridor outside the core. Chamber. The readout showed small moving energy signatures, fast, erratic, and getting closer. What is that? Holt asked. Jax didn't look up. Not electrical surges. These things are feeding. They're pulling juice from the main conduits. Engineer Thalen's eyes narrowed. You brought this with you? Holt turned slowly toward him. Pretty. Sure, you own this ship. Alien warning, the hidden threat Captain Jarrell stepped forward, his voice low. They are not from our ship. They are parasites, void feeders. Holt frowned. Never heard of them. They live in deep space, drifting until they find a source of energy. Once inside a vessel, they burrow into the wiring and drain power until nothing remains. Thought we cleared them cycles ago. He looked grim. We were wrong, Thalen muttered. If they've reached the reactor conduits, they'll kill the core completely, Holt finished. And anyone inside when the life support fails. The first encounter, a sudden clang, echoed down the dark corridor. The group turned as a shadow moved across the far bulkhead. For a split second, Holt saw it insect-like limbs gripping the wall. A body that shimmered like heat haze and eyes that glowed a dull blue. Then it skittered upward, vanishing into the ceiling vents. That was big, Jock said, his voice low and fast. It was a scout, Jarrell said grimly. The rest will come soon. Human response taking control. Holt didn't hesitate. Jocks grabbed the portable arcs. We're going hunting. Jarrell stepped in front of her. You are not trained for this. Holt smirked. You don't know humans. Within minutes, Holt had armed herself and Jocks with human-made arc. Blasters, short-range weapons that fired concentrated electrical bursts. They weren't military grade. They were perfect for frying anything that wanted to chew on power lines. The Zaylorians armed themselves with slim plasma cutters, tools that doubled as close-range weapons. Tense search through the ship that combined. Crew moved into the dim corridors. Every few meters, the overhead lights failed completely, forcing them to rely on helmet lamps. The air smelled faintly burned, with a tang of scorched circuitry. They found the first infestation in an auxiliary control room. 3 void feeders clung to a wall panel, their spindly limbs sunk deep into the wiring. As the lights from the helmets hit them, they shrieked in a high, metallic pitch and launched themselves forward. Holt fired first, the arc blaster spitting white-blue light. One parasite convulsed and fell, smoke rising from its carapace. Jarrell and Thalen finished the others with precise plasma strikes. It was fast, do-do-do-do-do, and over in seconds, but no one relaxed. Growing threat as they moved deeper into the ship. They realized the infestation was far worse than they thought. The creatures weren't just in the conduits. They had made nests, wrapping wiring with strange, chitinous material that pulsed faintly with stolen energy. Disgusting.
Yes.
Jocks muttered as he burned through another. Thalen glanced at him. These things have destroyed entire mining fleets. You think this is bad? Try facing a swarm 10,000 strong. Yeah. Thanks for the bedtime story, Jocks replied. Turning point human ingenuity, the Zaylorians worked methodically, cutting one nest at a time, but it was slow, too slow. Holt called for a halt. We're not clearing these fast enough. By the time we're done, they'll be back where we started. What do you suggest? Jarrell asked. Holt pulled a small device from her belt, a portable capacitor coil, used for charging tools in the field. She began wiring it directly into a power junction. Jocks' eyes lit up. Oh, you're making a trap. Exactly, Holt said. We juice the whole conduit, overcharge it for 1 second, and fry every feeder attached to it. One big sweep instead of room by room. Thalen stared at the device, skeptical. You would shock your own ship? You got a better idea? Holt asked. The trap is set. The crew worked fast, running cables and rigging capacitors across the main conduit network. Holt set the power draw to maximum. Once I flip this, she warned, we get one shot. Everything connected to the grid will get fried, including any system not shielded properly. Carell hesitated, then gave a sharp nod. Do it. Holt slammed her hand down on the activation panel. The hum of the ship's systems rose into a deep, throbbing vibration. Lights flickered violently. In the distance, They heard it, thousands of tiny, screeching cries echoing through the bulkheads. The void feeders spasmed where they clung to the wiring, their bodies convulsing. In arcs of blue-white electricity, then silence. The lights steadied. The smell of burnt chitin filled the air. Jocks grinned. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how humans do pest control. Back in the core chamber, Holt checked the stabilizers. Power flows clean now. We can get back to repairs. But as she looked at the drive core's readouts, her brow furrowed. What's wrong? Jarrell asked. This core, Holt tapped the display. Some of its components aren't your design. They're older, much older. Jarrell's expression hardened. You will continue repairs. Do not concern yourself with its origins. Holt met his eyes. You want me to fix it? I have to know what I'm working on. Before Jarrell could reply, the ship's sensors chimed a proximity alert. Something massive was moving through the void toward them. The first thing Captain Mara Holt noticed about the drive core was that it didn't belong. Not just that it was broken, ships broke all the time, but that parts of it didn't match the rest of the Veyrath's engineering at all. The Zaylorian systems were sleek, curved, almost artistic in their design. But deep inside the fractured heart of the ship was something else, something older, cruder, far more dangerous looking. She ran her gloved hand along the stabilizer housing. The surface wasn't metal as she knew it was a strange alloy that shimmered faintly in the light, shifting between colors as if it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. Jock stood beside her, studying the readouts on his wrist scanner. Cap, this alloy isn't in our database. It's not in anybody's database. Whatever this thing is, it's pre-FTL era at least. Holt gave a slow nod. And yet here it is sitting in the middle of a ship that shouldn't even know what it is. Tension with the alien crew. Jarrell stepped into the chamber, his voice firm. Your task is to repair the drive, not study it. Holt didn't turn around. If I don't understand what this core is made of, I can't repair it. And I'm not about to start poking at something I don't understand, especially if it's holding your whole ship together. Engineer Thalen moved to Jarrell's side. We should remove the humans. This technology is not for them, not for us, said, turning. It's literally broken. If we weren't here, you'd still be floating dead in space waiting for your air to run out. The room went tense. Two species, two sets of eyes staring each other down across a glowing alien artifact. JIRE finally broke the silence. This core contains an addition. It was discovered on an uncharted world. During a survey mission, it appeared to be a power source, ancient beyond measure. We integrated it into our ship's core to extend its range, but something went wrong. The discovery of the artifact's nature. Holt crouched beside the housing, prying open a maintenance panel. Inside, instead of neatly ordered circuits, she found a tangled network of strange crystal growths, each one pulsing faintly with light. This isn't just a power source, Holt murmured. It's alive. Thalen scoffed. You speak nonsense. It is a machine. Machines don't pulse like a heartbeat, Holt shot back. Jocks adjusted his scanner. She's right. It's outputting electromagnetic patterns that match neural activity. This thing's got brainwaves. For the first time, Holt saw doubt flicker in Jarrell's expression. The human plan, an alien resistance. If this thing's alive, Holt said, then repairing it isn't just a matter of swapping parts. We have to figure out how it wants to work. And that means we'll need to talk to it, in a sense. You intend to communicate with the core? Jarrell's voice was sharp. If it's a living power source, we need its cooperation, Holt. He said otherwise, it's going to keep shutting itself down and taking your ship with it. Thalen shook his head. This is reckless. The core was never meant to be understood. It was meant to be used. Holt's tone hardened. And how's that working out for you so far? Strange reaction to humans. They began running controlled scans, sending different power frequencies into the core. Most produced no reaction. But when Holt herself adjusted the controls, the core responded instantly, its glow intensifying, the pulsing rhythm changing to match her movements. Jax blinked. It's reacting to you. Holt frowned. To me specifically, or to a human input? She handed the controls to Jox. The moment he touched them, the core pulsed again. As if acknowledging him, Thalen stepped forward and tried the same thing. The core's glow dulled almost immediately. The humans exchanged a look. "Well," Holt said softly, "I think we just became more important to this thing than you are." Escalating suspicion that fact did not sit well with the Zaylorians. The corridors outside the core chamber, Holt overheard whispers. Some wanted to eject the humans and keep the core for themselves. Others argued they should let the humans finish the repairs, then decide what to do with them afterward. Holt knew exactly what that meant. Jox found her later, his face tight. "We're being watched. They're assigning guards everywhere we." "Go now," Holt said, "and not the friendly kind." The external threat returns just as the tension between crews reached its peak. The ship's proximity alarm blared again. On the main display, a massive shape was approaching, a drifting vessel or station, unlit, silent. And on a direct course for the Veyrath, Jarrell barked orders in his own language. But Thalen shook his head. "We can't. The core isn't stable enough to handle a weapons surge." Holt studied the incoming object on the display. Something about it made her uneasy. Its shape was wrong for a ship more like a twisted mass of metal and stone. Yet, parts of it glowed faintly with the same shifting colors as the core. Jox's voice was quiet. "Cap, what if that thing is here for the artifact?" Cliffhanger ending, the signal as the object drew closer. The core in the reactor chamber began to pulse faster, so fast that it looked almost frantic. The Iron Hope's AI translated the sensor logs into human speech. "Signal detected. Source is calling." Jarrell turned to Holt. "What does that mean?" Holt stared at the pulsing. "Core, it means," she said slowly. "This thing isn't just alive, it's got friends. And one of them just found us." The lights died without warning. Not a flicker, not a slow fade, just total blackness. Swallowing the corridors of the Veyrath in an instant. For 3 long seconds, no one moved. Then the emergency strips along the walls lit up in a dull red glow, painting everything in shadows. Holt's voice crackled over the com. "Jox, report. Did we lose power from the core again?" "Negative," Jox replied from engineering. "Core stable. This isn't a failure." Someone cut the grid. In the darkness. That was a far worse problem than another system malfunction. First signs of betrayal on the bridge. Captain Jarrell barked orders in Zaylorian, bringing status screens online with backup power. The life support grid was disconnected, Thalen reported deliberately. Jarrell's eyes narrowed. "Who?" Thalen's silence was answer enough. Holt stepped onto the bridge. "We both know what this looks like. Someone wants to stop the repairs." Jarrell's tone was sharp. "You imply sabotage from my crew?" "I imply nothing," Holt said. "I'm telling you. I've seen this before. Someone's playing games. And in the dark, people die." The search begins teams split up Zaylorians patrolling the lower decks. Humans sweeping the engineering sectors. Holt kept her arc blaster ready as she moved through the narrow corridors with Jox at her side. The red emergency lights turned every shadow into a threat. Halfway down the auxiliary maintenance shaft, they found the first sign of the Sabatoran access panel torn open. Wires stripped and deliberately crossed to overload the power junction. Jax crouched down. This wasn't random. Whoever did this knew exactly where to hit. They wanted more than just a blackout. They wanted to fry our reroute paths, which means they've been watching us. Holt muttered alien infighting, meanwhile below deck. Thalen cornered a young Zaylorian technician near a sealed hatch. The technician swore they'd seen a human near the conduit room minutes before the blackout. The rumor spread quickly. By the time Holt and Jox returned to the core chamber, 3 armed Zaylorians were waiting, weapons drawn not aimed at Holt, but at Jox. He was seen near the sabotage point. One of them said coldly. "That's convenient," Holt replied, stepping in front of her engineer. "Too convenient." Tensions boil over. Jarrell arrived moments later, his voice cutting through. The tension, enough. "We do not kill our only repair crew without proof." Thalen's glare never left Holt. "Then prove it wasn't them, or this alliance ends now." Holt ignored him. crouching beside a console and pulling up the security feed. The video was patchy. Several cameras had gone offline before the blackout, but one clip remained. It showed a figure in a Zaylorian engineer's uniform opening the conduit hatch, but their face was hidden behind a welding visor. Not exactly. Definitive, Jock said. It's enough to tell me it wasn't you, Holt replied. But it does tell me this someone in your crew is trying to stop this ship from leaving. Saboteur's Goldurel was silent for a long moment. There are those among us who believe the core should be abandoned. The humans should be removed before they learn too much.
Removed,
Holt said. Funny word for killed. Jarrell didn't correct her. You'd better figure out which of your people are willing to destroy their own ship to make that happen, Holt said sharply, because we're running out of time. A second strike, as if to prove her point. The ship's alarm blared again, this time from the docking bay. Holt, Jocks, and two Zaylorians sprinted to the bay to find the Iron Hope's airlock forced open. Inside, their main tool crates were scattered, several vital repair components missing. Great, Jocks said bitterly. They're not just trying to shut us down, they're crippling us. Holt scanned the bay. Not just us. Without those components, the Veyrath can't run the stabilizers. Whoever's doing this wants the core to fail completely. Chasing shadows, they caught a break when the Iron Hope's AI flagged an anomaly and unregistered life sign, moving through a maintenance tunnel between the human docking port and the ship's starboard wing. Holt and Jocks gave chase. The Zaylorian closed behind. The tunnel was narrow, forcing them to move single file. Every few meters they caught a glimpse of movement ahead, a shadow slipping just out of sight. When they finally reached the end of the tunnel, they found the hatch locked. From the outside, whoever the saboteur was, it slipped away into the ship's ventilation system. Uneasy Alliance back in the core chamber, Holt set down her arc blaster. We can't keep playing defense. We need to get this core online now before they make their next move. Jarrell studied her. You still believe you can do it? I don't believe, Holt said. I know. But I'm going to need your crew to stop treating mine like criminals. Thalen's voice was tight. And if we don't, Holt's eyes were cold. Then you can explain to the Void why your ship is a corpse drifting between dead stars. Before Thalen could reply, the proximity alarm flared again. The unidentified object from earlier was now close enough for visual scan. The image appeared on the main screen, a massive, dagged construct, half metal and half stone, with the same shifting, unnatural glow as the core. The Veyrath sensors translated the energy signature into audio. It was not random noise, it was a message, and it was speaking in a language no one on board could understand, except for the artifact in the core, Wadar. 3 hours. That's all they had. The artifact's pulses were becoming erratic, feeding unstable energy into the damaged reactor. Every scan screamed the same warning: meltdown was imminent. If that happened, the Veyrath wouldn't just die, would tear itself apart in a chain reaction powerful enough to rip a small moon in half. Holt stood in the core chamber, helmet visored down, breathing steady. All right, she said. Let's do the impossible. The stakes are clear, Jarrell's voice carried over the intercom. Captain Holt. If this fails, Holt didn't look up from her toolkit. If this fails, you'll have a new star out here. Problem is, you'll be inside it. Jocks was on her left, sorting through their salvaged parts, human scrap metal, alien alloy, and bits of jury-rigged wiring that looked like they'd been pulled from a 100-year-old toaster. Not much to work with. Jocks muttered. That's what makes it fun, Holt replied. Cultural clash in the pressure cooker. Thalen, the Zaylorian chief engineer, stood a few meters back. Watching Holt work with thinly disguised contempt, you dismantled a heat exchanger to make a power coupler. He said, That's right, Holt said without looking up. That is crude. It's also the only way you're not going to be space dust in 3 hours, Holt said, snapping the coupler into place. You Zaylorians build like it's an art gallery. We build like it's a bar fight. Guess which survives longer? Plan of attack. The repair had to be done in 3 steps. Stabilize the artifact's output so it didn't burn through the core housing. Rebuild the cracked reactor ring using improvised parts. Reroute power bypass around the sabotaged conduits. Simple. On paper, nearly suicidal in reality, the chamber's radiation shields were barely functional. Even in full suit, they had maybe 45 minutes of safe exposure. Saboteur's shadow halfway through step 1. The chamber lights flickered. Not again, Holt muttered. But this wasn't another blackout. It was the artifact. Its pulses were accelerating. And on the core's exterior feed, a small, fast-moving heat signature was visible in the maintenance ducts. The saboteur was still here. Jarrell. Holt snapped into comms. Seal the lower access vents. No one in or out without my say-so. Understood.
The first three.
Breakthrough jocks finished, recalibrating the field dampeners, which glowed faintly blue as they bled excess energy away from the artifact. For the first time in days, the reactor's heat signature dropped into the yellow. That's it, Jock said, almost smiling. Don't get cocky, Holt replied. That was the easy part. The dangerous step 2 meant manually installing the rebuilt reactor ring, a delicate alignment job usually done by automated systems in a sterile repair bay. Here, in a failing alien ship's heart, Holt had to do it by hand while the artifacts. Pulses rattled the entire housing. Every time she aligned one segment, the vibration knocked another out of place. Sweat pooled inside her helmet. You've got 2 minutes before radiation spikes, Jock warned. Tell the radiation it can wait. Holt gritted.sabotage attempt #2. Just as Holt was locking the final segment in place, a sharp ping echoed through the chamber. One of the dampeners shut down. Someone just killed the secondary stabilizer, Jock said, scanning the feed. Sure enough, the small heat signature in the ducts was moving again, or the cooling system this time. Holt didn't hesitate. Seal the vents and flood them with inert gas. I don't care who's in there. This repair comes first. Seconds later, the signature vanished from sensors. Final push step. 3 rerouting the power bypass. Required. Holt to connect a human-built regulator directly into the alien reactor's main conduit. Captain said, voice tight. If you cross-phase those circuits without synchronizing, they'll blow. Holt finished. Yeah, I know. That's why I'm not going to mess it up. Her hands moved quickly, locking the mismatched connectors together with a brutal twist. Sparks flew, and for a moment the entire chamber hummed with unstable energy. Then silence. The core lights shifted from red to green dot. The artifact reacts as the repaired reactor stabilized. The artifact's pulses slowed, then changed. They were no longer random, they were a pattern. The console translated it into a waveform, and the bridge audio picked it up. A slow, deliberate sound, almost like a heartbeat. Jarrell's voice came over. Comes Captain Holt. The object outside is responding. It's moving toward us, fast. The impossible is done but. Holt stepped back, staring at the now stable core. Well, I did the impossible. Jox gave a shaky laugh. Yeah, but I don't think it's going to matter in a few minutes, because on the outer hall cameras, the massive, jagged construct loomed larger and larger, its own lights now pulsing in time with the artifact's heartbeat. Holt's voice was low. Get everyone to the bridge. We're about to find out what we just woke up. Heartbeat echoed through the ship. It wasn't sound, they were in the vacuum of space, but every crew member felt it in their bones. A slow, deep thump that seemed to pull at the air around them. On the bridge, Zaylorians and humans stood frozen as the external cameras showed the jagged construct drifting closer. It was massive, easily the size of a small city at surface. Bristling with spines and shimmering, panels that moved like the scales of a living thing. The artifact inside the Veyrath's reactor pulsed again. The construct pulsed with it. This isn't a machine, Holt murmured. It's answering. Something older than either race. Jarrell's voice was tight. Captain Holt, that object or archives have nothing like it. Nothing. That's because it's older than your archives, Holt said. She wasn't being smug, just stating fact. The construct stopped a few kilometers away. Panels unfolded like petals, revealing a dark void at its center. No lights. No movement. Just a hollow space. And then, without warning, the artifact's pulses shifted frequency. Thalen, the Zaylorian engineer, stumbled back from the console. It's transmitting. It's using us as the source. The message that wasn't for them. Transmission wasn't directed toward either ship. It went out into the void beyond human and Zaylorian space. On the long-range sensors, faint pings returned. Not one. Not two. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Jox's eyes widened. It's calling. Something. Contact the construct's center flared with pale light. And then, like mist forming into shape images, appeared in the void between the two vessels. Not holograms, not projections. More like memories made visible. The humans saw images of a vast civilization, taller and stranger than either species. Cities made of moving crystal. Ships like woven light. People who worked with the fabric of space itself. The Zaylorians gasped when they saw one of the ancient beings tall. Six-limbed, faceless, save for the faint lines of glowing runes. Them, Thallon whispered. The Makers. The artifact chooses without warning. The artifact inside the core began to glow brighter, its heartbeat accelerating. The reactor readings spiked, but not in a destructive way. Instead, power began. Flooding into the Veyrath, systems long dead roared back to life. Hull plating reformed itself as if grown from living metal. But the strangest thing? Every control system now recognized Captain Holt's biometric ID. Not the Zaylorians. Reactions. Gerald's jaw tightened. Why you? Maybe it likes people. Who fixed the unfixable? Holt said, though her voice was low. Even she knew this wasn't about skill. The construct outside rotated slowly, and an opening began to form a tunnel of shifting metal and light. It was big enough for the Veyrath to enter. A choice Girl turned to Holt. The Makers, they vanished millennia ago. No one knows why. If that thing is one of theirs, this may be our only chance to learn. But it might be a trap. Holt finished. It's always a trap, Jox muttered. Holt looked at the glowing tunnel, then at the artifact's steady pulse. Trap or not, I think it just invited us in. Entering the unknown, as the Veyrath moved toward the opening, the construct's inner wall shifted like muscle under skin. Lights pulsed in time with the artifact's heartbeat. The moment they crossed the threshold, out. The ship's sensors went wild. Space itself seemed to bend, folding them into somewhere else entirely. Through the viewports, they saw stars rearrange themselves into patterns no navigation chart recognized. Massive structures drifted in the distance, each one glowing faintly as if asleep. A living response. The bridge lights dimmed. A voice not in sound, but in thoughts poked to them. It wasn't words exactly, but every mind aboard translated it into something they could understand. We see you. Makers of the broken hole. The humans and Zaylorians exchanged glances. Is it talking about the repairs? Jox whispered. Holt's eyes narrowed. No, I think it's talking about us. Not alone anymore. The construct began to move again, deeper into this hidden place. Dozens, maybe hundreds of other massive forms drifted there, like guardians sleeping in a cosmic harbor, and in the darkness beyond them. Something else stirred. The artifact's pulse quickened. Jarrell's voice was barely a whisper. Captain Holt? I don't think we were supposed to find this. Holt didn't take her eyes off the viewport. Maybe not. But we're here now. Final beat for Part 7. A shadow moved between the distant structures. Fast, slow, and deliberate. The kind of movement that spoke of size beyond comprehension. The voice returned. Others come. Prepare. The construct's tunnel began to close, sealing them inside. Holt tightened her grip on the armrest. Yeah, she muttered. That's never a good sign. The thing in the dark was awake. It wasn't a sudden movement or blinding light. It was the way the entire hidden space seemed to shift in recognition of its presence. Structures miles wide pivoted. Lights rippled like nervous systems firing. Even the massive construct that had guided them here stopped moving, as if holding its breath, and then they saw it. A shape so vast it blocked the stars, gliding between the slumbering giants. The shadow wasn't empty, it was patterned, covered, in strange fractal markings that shifted like flowing ink. Every sensor on the Veyrath overloaded at once. The warning, the voice returned, cold, distant, urgent. Others come. Not of the whole, not of the light. They unmake. Holt's brow furrowed. Others. What others? Jarrell stepped closer to the viewport, eyes narrowing. That thing out there isn't a maker. It's their enemy. The enemy approaches. The shadow moved with impossible speed, now heading straight for them. Smaller shapes, dozens peeled off from its surface like hunting drones. The artifact inside the reactor pulsed wildly, surging power through the Veyrath. Every system lit up, weapons included. Jack's voice shook. Captain, I think it wants us to fight. The unlikely Alliance Girl turned to Holt. Your people are fighters. Ours are not. If that thing gets past us, it might reach inhabited space. Holt didn't hesitate. Then we don't let it past. Zaylorians and humans scrambled into position. Alien gunners learned to handle human jury-rigged targeting systems. Humans donned Zaylorian exosuits for extra armor. For the first time, the two species fought as one crew. The battle in the harbor. The first wave of enemy drones hit. They weren't metal. They were grown, like living weapons. Their hulls writhed under fire, shifting shapes to deflect shots. Human coil guns tore into them, while Zaylorian plasma lances burned through their cores. The massive shadow slowed, as if testing their defenses. The Maker's final gift, the artifact, pulsed one final time, then shattered. Light flooded the reactor chamber, and a shockwave rippled outward, coating the Veyrath in a translucent living armor. Every damaged system repaired in seconds. The voice came again, softer now. You carry the whole. You mend what is broken. Keep it safe. And then it was gone. Driving the enemy back with the new armor, the Veyrath became untouchable. Enemy. Drones fell in droves. Massive shadow recoiled, then slowly retreated into the dark. Leaving only drifting wreckage, the harbor of sleeping giants dimmed again, as if going back to rest. The departure of the construct that had brought them here reappeared, guiding them toward an exit tunnel. The moment they crossed back into normal space, the harbor vanished from sensors as if it had never been there. Jera broke the silence. What just happened? Will not be believed by my people. Holt smirked. Good thing belief isn't required for gratitude. As the humans prepared to return to their salvage ship, Jarrell stopped Holt. You saved my crew. You saved my ship. But more than that, you saved something my people had lost long ago. The idea that we are not alone, and that strangers can be family. Holt shook his hand. Promise me one thing next time you call for help. Make it somewhere closer, or else. Expression softened. Next time, we'll come for you. Closing scene as the Veyrath jumped to Zaylorian space. Holt's crew stood on their own bridge, silent. The artifact was gone. But somewhere far beyond known space, something older than history now knew humans existed, and in the deep unseen. Dark, a signal, pulsed, steady, patient, waiting. The war wasn't over, it had only just begun.